Hey everyone, Robert Ferringo and Raphael Esparza back once again with a special, we'll call it a Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa version of What Are the Odds? So, merry whatever to all of you out there. Hope you're safe and having fun. We will get to the games. We're going to do some rapid fire college bowl game breakdowns and then talk about a few NFL lines that jumped out at us. We will get to that in a minute. First, got a little house cleaning to do. As always, use that promo code down below in the description, that free 60 promo code that will give you $60 free to be used towards any package for any handicapper at Doc Sports. Also down in the description below, there will be a promo code FB Remainder 15. That is 15% off our already discounted remainder of the football season package. That gets you all of the top bowl games, everything from the college football playoffs, the rest of the NFL and NFL playoffs, and the Super Bowl package. So be sure to check that out as well. Also, I would like to say that this week I have my 8-unit NFL game of the year. I'm not going to deep dive too much into that, but just throwing that out there that this will be one of my top plays of the year going this week. I know that he's not going to like me to say it, but I have to point out that Raphael Esparza is the only professional handicapper that I know of that releases a pick in every single bowl game. That's right. You heard that right. He is releasing a pick in every single bowl game. He has done this for years, one of the best in the business. So be sure to check out Raphael's Insiders page for news and updates on that. And then finally, one of our favorite traditions here at Doc Sports is Christmas Day. Strike Point Sports releases a rated play in all of the NBA Christmas Day games, including a 7-unit play. I believe they're 17 and 10. It's like 63% over the last 6 Christmases. I know they won their 7-unit last year, so be sure to check out all of that. So, all right, Raphael, that's all out of the way. Let's dive right into this. We're not going to, like I said, we're not going to deep dive these bowl games in terms of breaking them down, but I did pick out a few where the numbers seemed a little odd to me, and I was hoping you could help me out with that. The first one is with the Holiday Bowl with Syracuse at Washington State. Now, we've seen this a few times earlier this year where teams either lost a ton to the transfer portal. I mean, Marshall backed out of their game. They lost so many guys. Teams have lost their coaches, their coordinators. We've seen attrition in some of these games. We've seen it blow up the lines, but it seems like every team so far, Tulane, just the other day against Florida, every team that's lost a ton in these bowl games, they haven't covered the spread. So my first question is, this number is around 16.5 for Syracuse. Is that enough for Washington State?
Oh, that's a big number. We didn't see this number when Tulane played the other day. So this is a monster. This is a Buffalo Green Bay type of number we saw last week in the NFL. One team covered, Green Bay did last night, and one team was a little scared, Buffalo. Yeah. And something. Yeah. So this one's kind of iffy. If you got a middle spot, because this one opened at 5.5 when all the bowl game numbers came out. What a great middle if you have 5.5. I think some shops have 17. The Superbook in Las Vegas and FanDuel all have 17 right now. So I think this number continues to go higher. I would not shock me if we see 17.5 or maybe snip into the 18, because let's face it, it's so much easier now to see who's opt out than a couple of years ago when some people were keeping quiet, or you would find out when they put the TV and people are warming up and you see the wide receiver not playing. But there's so many people opt out now, the news is much easier. So I think on this one, I would wait to see how high you can get the number. If you want to play, I don't think there's no value. If you want to play Syracuse, I don't see value in it anymore. It's 16.5, 17. I mean, are you really going to put your double mortgage, your house on a number that's obsolete on a bowl game? Are you going to put the Santa money you got in your stockings on a bowl game this high? I think it's only dog play and under. I mean, normally these bowl out games, they have not been snipping anything over. So I think under money will probably come in.
Thank you for mentioning that. That gives me the opportunity to remind our viewers here: don't bet your mortgage. Don't bet anything that you're not willing to lose. But again, it doesn't. See, I'm looking at Syracuse. I am, because like I said, up until this point, the books have adjusted all of the numbers against the teams that have lost coaches and players and all that. It hasn't been enough. Like, these games have been absolute bloodbaths. And I think Syracuse could win this game by 30 because they're playing against a skeleton team. So you probably already answered this. This was going to be my next question. The Louisiana Tech Army game is a similar situation. That number is right around 16 and a half, 17, right? That's the game that Marshall backed out of. Louisiana Tech raised its hand. They're 5-7. Sonny Cumbie in his third year, trying to save his job, I feel like a little bit, by being able to say, hey, we went to a bowl last year. He jumped in, lost his quarterback, lost several players to the transfer portal. They at least have let's say 80 to 85% of their team. They will be facing Army. Same thing. It's right around the same number as Syracuse. If Syracuse blows out Washington State, do you think that people should maybe take a look at Army in that situation? Because again, it's just been one of the few trends or themes that we've seen in these early bowl games is teams that have lost a lot of attrition, either through the coaching ranks or the playing ranks, they've gotten blown out.
For me, I'll tell you, I'm not playing. You said I play every game, but I'm not playing this Army La Tech game because I was focusing on the other matchup of Army and Marshall. And La Tech, what I heard from my sources, they were calling players to, hey, I know you didn't opt out, but you already made your Christmas plans. Can you come back and play this game? So right. I agree if you're gun. But the only thing that scares me about this game, Army, they don't get tons of possessions because the way they run their offense. So are you going to get enough possessions to cover that huge number? Because now you have to think about, okay, maybe I need a defensive touchdown if I'm going to cover this number. I agree. Army should have no problem winning this game, but are they going to have enough possessions to pull this number to that number you need, 18, 19 points?
Yeah, even though they're 5-7, I wish Louisiana Tech was bringing its full team here, or at least 95%, because I'd be all over Louisiana Tech. You know me, I've been fading Army the whole way. So, all right, another game with a kind of a similar theme where the number jumped out at me a little bit was at Connecticut, North Carolina, the Fenway Bowl right there. Now, North Carolina, they have been awful all season long. They're 2-10 against the spread. They fired Mac Brown. They're bringing in the hoodie for next year. Already had a ton of players leave. Like, they just seem like they're kind of a mess. It's weird to me that North Carolina is even playing in a bowl game. So, like, it's even stranger to me that they are favored in this game. So explain this number to me. Is there value on North Carolina here, or is this a stay away? Should we be fading them? Like, just really surprised by that number here.
I'm looking at fading them. I mean, we're not releasing our games now, so I can say that I'm looking to fading them because anything can happen in the next couple of 24 hours on a number this way. But I just don't think with North Carolina, they got a new hoodie coach coming in, but all those players already opted out. So you're hearing about all these new players coming in, but those new players coming in are not playing. In Connecticut, I heard, have pride. Connecticut wants to win at Fenway Park and others. So I see them with a huge motivation on this one. I'm blown away that they're not the 2-point favorites and you're getting plus points on this one. So, hey, if you bought my plays and you say, wow, I took UConn and I said it's here on free, you just got a bonus.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm really surprised that they're not favored. Connecticut doesn't go to a lot of bowl games, so it's a big deal for them just to be in a bowl game. So they don't care who they're playing. You know that they're going to max out in this one. It's one of those games where the number is almost so odd or so off that it's kind of scaring me a little bit, but I'm with you 100%. Then the final one that I just wanted to brush over is Alabama, Michigan. They're 13-point favorites next Tuesday in the ReliaQuest Bowl. We know that Alabama did not want to play in the ReliaQuest Bowl, so I have serious questions about their motivation. And Raphael, the only thing I could think of is in the NCAA tournament, Selection Sunday, right? You always have those 3 or 4 teams that are right on the bubble that get left out. Then they go to the NIT, which usually plays on that Tuesday. They're always huge favorites. The theme is always, well, these guys want to prove that they belong to the NCAA tournament. That's actually not what normally happens. Half of those teams lose outright because they just don't give a damn about the bowl game. They're pissed off, about the NIT game. They're pissed off that they didn't make it to the NCAA tournament. They don't care to cover the big line. Tell me why it would be different with Alabama here and why they would be motivated. Do you think that this is really like we're going to go out there and prove that we should have been in it? Or do you think that, they watched SMU get crushed last week and now they're just so pissed off that they don't really care about the ReliaQuest Bowl?
I think the coaches probably care more than the players because the coach has been ridiculed all season long. I mean, people wanted him to get fired after the losses at Oklahoma and others. I think the coaches are probably wanting to showcase that, hey, you know what? We're still fighting for this game. Yes, we thought we got maybe left out in the college football. But you know what? I still was able to coach this team up for this bowl game against Michigan. The only person that's probably really happy about this game is Kirk Herbstreit. Yes, I'm talking to you. I burned you the other day on my rant on one of my other shows because this is his game, a brand versus brand. Both teams should have been in the college football playoff because it's brand. This is a total fade for me on Michigan. I like the Alabama in this spot. I think the number's not good for me right now. I think the coaches, if they win and cover, it's not because of players. I think the coaches prep their players for this game.
Knowing that you have like a running beef with Kirk Herbstreit now, that I feel like Santa came early for me. Like that one's gonna get me through the rest of the day. Just knowing that like
he was crickets when Tennessee got blown out. He was crickets.
Yeah, and you were calling him out. So thank you for that. I appreciate that Christmas present. Same thing with Michigan, though, real quick. Like, we know that their last game, they beat Ohio State. That was their Super Bowl game. Yep. Like, no matter what bowl game they went to, nothing was going to be better than that. Let down for Michigan. Like, are they even going to bother to show up in this game? Like,
I was hoping his total would have been like 46, 47, so I could easily make my play on this since I do release a bowl play, but 43.5. I mean, you have to throw out the under. You can't play that anymore because that's a low bowl game total one. I can see both teams establishing a run and being able to run on each other's defense because we've seen both teams give up a lot of runs on the ground. So yeah, I can. Michigan, I mean, this is a totally different Michigan team. They have no big blowouts. They had no one leaving their program. Their coaches are all coming back here. So it's going to be this game has me very intrigued because I want to see how these players come out and play this game.
Yeah, same thing. For me, it's not intrigued. Like from a betting perspective, it's scared. There's just too many unknowns. This is the type of bowl matchup that it bothers me because you just don't know. You just don't know where 19 and 20-year-old kids' heads are going to be at. And to throw money in there, like I could see, if Alabama doesn't care about this game, I could see Michigan winning it. I mean, imagine if Michigan ended their season with that, right? A win over Ohio State and a win over Alabama. It doesn't matter that they didn't make the playoffs. That would be a successful season right there. So they're motivated. If Alabama came out and won, by 35 points and put it on a Big Ten team, that would end their season with a positive note. So there's just way too many unknowns. But hey, that's bowl betting, right? Instead, let's shift gears to the NFL. We're going to talk about the two Christmas games. Even though I got to say, I'm not super stunned by this first number. Kansas City being favored at Pittsburgh. They're favored by less than a field goal. Makes sense. Every Kansas City game seemingly is decided in the last 5 minutes. What say you? Surprised that Kansas City is a road favorite here? Is there value on the home underdog? What were you thinking when you saw this number?
That I was a little bit torn. I thought it was going to be closer to maybe a 2 or 1 because Kansas City's banged up on defense now, and now they're playing on a short week on the road, and Pittsburgh is a tough place to steal a game at, so the terrible towels would be all over the place. But Kansas City's won 18 of their last 21 road games, so that number just sticks out at you right there. But then you have to throw in, hey, the Steel Curtain, they have covered 7 of their last 10 games at home. I mean, the only thing that I think people are going to look at, Pittsburgh just lost to Baltimore. They only scored 17 points. Yeah, but Russell Wilson gave away 14 points. A fumble in the end zone and then the other bad play. You throw in those 2 plays. Those are 2 touchdowns. So now the team total cashed over. The game went over, and that's a totally different game against the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm leaning towards the Steel Curtain on this one. I'll take the plus points if I can get that half a point because I think the public is going to bet KC just because of their Kansas City. And that's what everyone's been doing as of late, even though they're not the greatest team about covering spreads. I'm intrigued about the total. I think we're going to see a lot of points scored in this one.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that about that Baltimore-Pittsburgh game. Okay, I had a 7-unit play on the Ravens last week. We talked about it here, and what are the odds? And I was just so surprised that Baltimore was that big of a favorite that I actually did lean into that. I ended up taking Baltimore. But I got to tell you, I felt lucky to cover the spread in that game for exactly what you said. And that's why – not to stray too far off the path here, but that's what handicapping is, right? It's not just looking at the final score and being like, this team blew out this team. It's trying to understand the hows and the whys of results in games and using that information moving forward. For me, this Kansas City-Pittsburgh game is a fantastic matchup. It's an easy stay away, right? Because I'm not going to bet against Kansas City. I said that months ago. I'm just not betting against Mahomes and the Chiefs. And I'm not betting against Pittsburgh again as an underdog. I did it last week, but I'm not going to make a habit of that because they've been so good. And you touched on how good the Steelers have been at home, covering 7 of their last 10 home games. Also consider this. This is only their second home game since mid-November. 4 of their last 5 games and 5 of their last 7 games have been on the road. 4 out of 5 road games. That's a tough road stretch. It's easy to forget how much of a boost that the Steelers are going to get from their home crowd. So I'm with you. I won't have a play in this game, but, gun to my head, lean, whatever you want to call it. I would think about Pittsburgh on the money line here even. I still think that Kansas City is going to lose another regular season game. I do not think that they're going to go 16-1 this year. And with all of the uncertainties, the injuries, the 3.5-day turnaround time, I think that this could be a situation where the public gets smacked in the face and the Steelers do their thing.
I was on the show. Not to cut you off. I was on the show this morning, and someone asked me, because I don't do a lot of free plays on other people's shows, because people always want to ask me my free play record. I'm like, if I did that and tracked every show I do, my head will explode to try to track free plays and all that. But someone asked me, what would be a nice bet just to sit there and watch it? I'm a Steelers fan, and how can I, without taking the money line? I'm like, take the Pittsburgh Steelers alternate line, -3. You're getting 2-1. So if the Steelers win this game, they're going to cover the field goal, or you get a push if they win by 3. I mean, 2-1 at -3 at home when you're getting plus points. I mean, roll the dice.
And again, that's the kind of stuff that always makes my head want to explode, though, also, is when people are like, hey, I want to bet just to have something to watch. I'm always like, I've been doing this so long, Raphael, and you have too, that, again, for me, it's not about the action. It's about the money. It's very much a bottom line thing. So I always get the shakes when people are like, oh, I just want to bet on this game just so I can watch it and bet. I'm like, oh my God, you're doing it wrong. Like,
I hope people didn't do that last night, because that was the worst Monday Night Football game I've ever seen. One of the world's worst.
That was really bleak. Really, really bleak. Okay, other Christmas Day game, Baltimore, Houston. The thing that jumped out at me about this game is that this number spiked. Okay, originally this spread was around 3.5 at some books. It is already up to 5.5. I wouldn't be surprised to see it hit 6 by the time kickoff. Everybody's going to pile on.
There is a stick that just posted this afternoon about.
Yeah, there you go. This number is only going one way, but that's a big jump in a short amount of time between 2 playoff teams. Essentially, these teams are both going to be in the playoffs. So value with Houston here. We already talked about Baltimore's misleading score last week against the Steelers. Little value with the home dog here, or is Baltimore just a team where the arrow is pointed up?
I think the arrow is pointing up, and their offense is starting to roll. I mean, I think Henry's starting to run the ball again good. He had a couple bad games, and everyone thought, and those are the games that they were losing. Now he's had a good game last week against Pittsburgh. This one is all about mentality. I mean, the Houston Texans just watched one of their star wide receivers get his knee blown up. And when you're a team that's still talking about the injury 24 hours and how that's changed the team's locker room, and how every time I refresh my screen, they signed another wide receiver. And these wide receivers aren't going to be, it's not like these games playing on Sunday. This game is being played tomorrow. So those wide receivers they signed, they barely even got their helmet size yet to wear for Christmas Day. This game for me, I don't like this game because of mentality. What's Houston's mentality watching one of their key voices in the locker room? People don't know Tank Dell's voice was probably stronger than the Stroud's voice in the locker room, CJ, for the quarterback. So losing one of those key voices, I think the mentality is not there in this game. Now, if this game was Sunday, totally different story. You have a couple more days to regroup, get these wide receivers, and get your mental game in. But this is a Christmas Day game that's 24 hours, and they're still talking about a guy that got his knee blown up. It just, for me, it's only Baltimore. I don't know what the mentality is for Houston. Maybe live bet on this one and see if you can get the Baltimore number to come down.
See, for me, I was actually looking the other way. If this number gets around 6, I think Houston might be a play. I just still don't trust that Baltimore defense. I understand that the numbers have been there. I think they've held like 4 out of 5 teams. They've held below 23 points, something like that. They've been playing better. But to your point, last week, Pittsburgh was moving the ball without George Pickens, on the road like that. I just don't know if Baltimore is going to turn around after that rivalry game and just put it on Houston. The Houston's Texans defense is still legit. It's still very much legit. And for me, almost a better bet than the spread on this one, like if you like Houston a little bit like I do, is Joe Mixon props. Okay?
Yes.
Joe Mixon was dominating for the team. Was having
attempts.
Pro Bowl type of season. 3 out of his last 4 games, he has been a mess. Last week, 14 attempts, 57 yards. The week before that against Miami, 12 attempts for 23 yards. 2 weeks before that against Tennessee, 14 attempts for 22 yards. So that's 3 out of his last 4 games with 100 yards against, the Jaguars, but I could run for 100 yards against the Jaguars. So what Joe Mixon is Houston going to get? If he comes to play, has a big game, is able to beat some of his props, then I think Houston could win this game. I think that they could at least make it respectable. If Joe Mixon goes 12 rushes for 23 yards, then, it probably is another 34-17 Ravens win. So, okay, next game on the board, shifting to Sunday, the first of our pseudo playoff games, right? We have Denver against Cincinnati. Denver isn't out of the playoff race with a loss.
Amazing.
Put a lot of pressure on them. If they do lose this game, they have to win in week 18. Cincinnati, it's win or their season is over. Basically, this game is in Cincinnati. This was one of the ones that you picked out. Opened with Denver plus 3.5. It's dropped to about 3 now. The majority of the action is coming in on the Broncos. What was it about this matchup or this number that got your attention?
Yeah, Cincinnati, granted, I know their last 3 wins have been against cupcakes, Browns, Titans, and Cowboys. And not a big schedule, but wins come and bring in momentum. And now you're at home and you still have a glitter of hope of a playoff spot. And you're going against, I hate to say rookie quarterbacks. There's only one rookie quarterback that's playing right now. It's Michael Penix. Everyone else is not a rookie anymore when you're in week 17, Bo Nix, everyone else. But you're bringing in a Bo Nix to come into a hostile place of Cincinnati with glitter of hope in the playoff. And Joe Burrow, if he wasn't 7-8 right now, he would be up there as an MVP candidate, the way the numbers he's putting. I love what Chase did last week. He got his yards, but didn't say anything. He's like, you know what? I still have one more game to try to get this team into the playoffs. His correct quote after the game. So they still know that there's glitter of hope to turn their season around. Now I'm only laying -3 against a team that still has a young quarterback that sometimes struggles on offense. And right now, what the Bengals have been putting up, 27+ points or more in their last 3 games. If this is a shootout, I just don't see Denver going toe-to-toe with the Bengals offense.
Well, that's the question, right? Big advantage for Denver defensively because that Bengals defense is bad. I know they played well last week against Cleveland, but that was Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He's a loser. He's not an NFL caliber quarterback. And, they were lucky on that very first drive, very first play of that game. Cleveland busts a 70-yard run. If it wasn't for that fumble at the 1-inch yard line on that first drive and Cleveland goes up 7-0 in that game, maybe that one has a little bit different feel. Obviously, Cincinnati has the edge at quarterback, but how much stock do you put into the fact that Denver's defense is just much, much better than the Bengals?
Joe Burrow has seen some really good defenses since he's been in the league. So it's not like you're throwing something he has not seen. And again,
Fair.
He is a very hot quarterback. We just have not talked about him because they're 7-9, and they're a bunch of losers all season long. Probably one of the most disappointing teams before this 3-game winning streak. But he's been playing some really good football. I'm not saying that they're going to win this game, but Joe Burrow has put this team on his shoulders before and won big games. This could be one of those games that I can't believe that Bengals still have playoff hopes.
All right, one of the games that I sent to you that I want to talk about was Miami at Cleveland. This number really jumped out at me. Not surprised that Miami was posted as a small favorite earlier in the week. They opened it at 3.5. Miami has something to play for. Cleveland doesn't. The books are going to shade the number against those must-win teams in these situations, but this number almost doubled. In fact, it has doubled up to Miami -6.5 in this game. Cleveland found out that Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he has a calf injury. He may not even play. I think that's a good thing because even though Jameis Winston is just a turnover machine, just an all-time joke of a quarterback to me, he's still better than DTR is. He's still a guy that can do some things. So I almost feel like that hurts Miami's chances if Winston starts because he's an actual NFL caliber quarterback as opposed to Thompson-Robinson. So again, explain to me why this number, like the Houston-Baltimore number, has pretty much doubled this week.
Is the bettors saw what the Cleveland Browns offense did last week. So you couldn't put this at a 4, once just a 4, maybe hang a 4 minus 120 in a juice and try to get 2-way action. You couldn't put that because they would just get hammered. So you had to put up a high number just because even though Miami has not proven to my eyes, we saw last week, that they don't deserve this road number at 6.5, almost 7, especially with their stars on offense not proving their weight. I just think the bettors are being a little bit more conservative. And don't forget, I can tell this, and I've been saying this every year during this time. These are one of the smallest weeks betting-wise handle that the books get. So the books can be a little bit more cautious because you're not going to get the 2 times more action you got maybe 2 weeks ago. This is a holiday. Yes, people are still betting, but the betting amounts and their dollar amounts are not maybe like they were 2 to 3 weeks ago because we're in a holiday season. So an average guy that's maybe betting $500 a game. Well, you know what? It's a holiday week. Maybe only be betting $100 a game. So you can put different kind of soft numbers knowing that you're not going to get hammered because every year weeks 15, 16, 17 are the smallest betting weeks.
All right, next game on the board, one of the biggest games of the weekend. That's Green Bay at Minnesota. And I know Green Bay looked fantastic on Monday night, but that was against the Saints team that just wasn't ready to play, wasn't ready to go on the road, wasn't ready to face that caliber of an opponent. The NFC North has just been laying waste to people in non-divisional games this year. So I understand the Green Bay love at the moment. But Raphael, explain to me why Minnesota 13-2 straight up. They won again last week. They covered the spread on the road at Seattle again last week. Why is Minnesota not at least a field goal favorite in this game at home?
I'm trying to figure out why 2 offshore books have pick on this game. Not even a 1, just a pick. And I'm pointing at you again, Kirk Herbstreit. This is a brand versus brand, and we all know what a brand is in this game. It's the Green Bay Packers. Sorry, Wade, coaches and all that, all the people who love out there. This is all about Green Bay being a name over Minnesota. Minnesota's been disrespected all season long. Sam Darnold has been disrespected all season. If Sam Darnold was doing this against the Jets when he was there, he would be on the front page of Sports Illustrated, Time Magazine. He would have beat Magazine of the Year instead of Donald Trump. Sam Darnold would have won that award. But he's playing in Minnesota, which no one's talking about. And this team is explosive. Their defense is outstanding. I like Minnesota in this spot. I 110% agree with you. They should be a field goal favorite. I'll even say 2.5 point favorite. I'll even go a little bit lower, but this should be a 3-point favorite. And I wish I could say this is going to be my 16-unit triple dog game of the year, but this is going to be such a great game. I just want to sit back and watch it and not stress because I'm going to be so excited to watch this game because I think Minnesota's a sleeper in the playoffs. They could be someone like, I can't believe the Minnesota Vikings are in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, first of all, again, love the animosity towards Herbstreit. Can somebody please come up with a hashtag and so we can needle him some more? I really want to fan the flame of this burgeoning rivalry here. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm not as high. I don't want to say I'm not as high on Minnesota as you are, but let me just say that I'm not in a rush to bet against Green Bay right now. Okay, with
their injury yesterday or Monday night with Watson, that's a key injury.
I don't think so. I think he's a schlub. He doesn't impress me at all. They have 3 other receivers that if Watson doesn't play with Wicks, Reed, Dobbs, they're tight ends.
I think he's a better route runner than Reed and Dobbs. I think he's a better route runner.
Maybe, but he's just. I'm not a Christian Watson guy. That guy's a bust. I think he's a bum. He's like a 4th or 5th receiver on a good team. He makes some occasional big plays. He also drops some balls. I'm not impressed by Watson. Him not playing does not sway me one reason at all. And there's 2 reasons why I really like Green Bay right now, especially compared to Minnesota, is their defense. If you've been watching this Green Bay defense, they have been dominating people. I'm not even talking about last night because I watched about 6 minutes of last night's game. I was like, yeah, this is a waste of my life. But they have been absolutely dominating people. That's number 1. And number 2 is that Jordan Love has stopped turning the ball over. They're averaging almost 31 points a game in their last 5 games since their bye week. And he has stopped turning the ball over. He's starting to look like that guy that showed up in the second half of last season and just went on that monster run. So I don't know. Key stat in this game, though, Raphael, the winner of this Green Bay Minnesota game is 11-0 against the spread the last 11 times that they've met. So whoever you think is going to win this game, that's who you take. Now, with 1 point on the spread and a pick somewhere, it doesn't really matter. But, if this number does move one way or another, let's say it goes to 1.5 or the books watch your video and your passionate plea about Minnesota and they decide to move it to 2, if you like Green Bay, I just go ahead and jump on that money line.
I can't believe the loser of this game is probably going to have the 5th seed in the NFC. That's crazy. Kirk Herbstreit should be complaining about that, not about Indiana and SMU playing in bowl games and not Alabama and Miami.
Well, and we're going to get to talk about it that week when that comes up because they're probably going to be favored on the road. So we get to deep dive into wild card teams being favored over divisional teams and how that's worked out kind of historically. But we will save that for another day. All right, last game that we want to touch on, the 8:00 game. Atlanta Falcons going to Washington, taking on the Commanders. Washington, a 4-point favorite in this game. They are in a potential letdown spot, I can say, after that just crazy, kind of ridiculous win over Philadelphia. If Devontae Smith makes that catch on 3rd down, that game is over. Philadelphia blowing a 2-touchdown lead late. Kenny Pickett throwing that big interception early. Washington scores, 34 points, whatever they had. They only had the ball for 23 minutes in that game. Yards per point were through the roof. Like a lot of numbers here suggesting that Washington shouldn't have won that game last week, but they did. So you tell me, is Washington primed to have a letdown after stealing a game that they probably shouldn't because of all the things that I mentioned? Or maybe momentum game, they win that one, they're at home, Sunday Night Football. Maybe they just keep playing over their heads a little bit because of Uncle Mo. What are you looking at here?
Well, you forgot to mention the most important thing on why they won that. They wouldn't have won that game if Jalen Hurts did not get hurt. They were losing 21-7 when he was in there. They were moving the ball pretty easily with Jalen Hurts in there. So, yeah, congratulations to Washington. Great comeback win. But that game is totally different if Jalen Hurts and not Pickett as your quarterback. So I'm not taking any praise. Hey, you came back, 5 turnovers, yada, 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 5 touchdowns by Daniels, yada, yada, yada. But that game is totally different if this played right now and it's 21-7 Daniels or Hurts doesn't get hurt. So I agree, but I think this one does get momentum. I mean, the way Washington acted after that game, they won a playoff game. They're going to the. I mean, they were ecstatic. I mean, and they should be. They beat a rivalry team, still in a playoff hunt. I think this brings momentum because the rookie quarterback that I can say his second game now has to go to Washington, who are just coming up a huge win against their division rival Philadelphia. And now you expect him to be ready for this game. Yes, you looked fantastic last week. But me and you can move the ball on the Giants defense. 2 against their whole defense. Me and you could probably get a first down between that defense. So I want to see more Michael Penix. Right now, I'm leaning towards watching, but I wish I was getting 3.5, or 4.5. This one will be probably 5. I'm probably guessing because I think the public always like to bet what they saw last, and they saw last Jane Daniels throw that rifle touchdown to win the game. This one will probably continue to move, but I'm leaning taking the Washington side in this one. I just don't know what I'm going to get with Michael Penix for the second game.
You hit on a lot of the things that I was going to ask you about. Specifically, do you think this number is going to continue to move? Or do you think that because there's, whether they were playing the Giants or not, looking at his stat line, which was kind of modest, didn't throw a touchdown pass, right, and threw an interception, which is kind of ironic because that's why Kirk Cousins got benched, right? Because everybody was saying, oh, well, he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 4 games and he's thrown X number of interceptions. Well, Michael Penix didn't throw a touchdown pass and threw an interception. Despite all of that, there is a good amount of buzz with Penix right now, and he's kind of the shiny new toy, right? He's the last of the rookie quarterbacks to start. Just a lot of buzz in the public and in the NFL betting public about Penix. Do you think that hype, momentum, buzz, whatever you want to call it, could help throw some money the Falcons' way and keep this number on that key number of 4?
Well, one offshore book has 4.5 right now. Normally, that means people are probably going to follow. If it goes to 5, then I'm jumping on the Atlanta side. And then I'm going to, okay, maybe they can run the ball. Maybe Pitts can finally do something at tight end. Maybe he can not throw a pick. Maybe the defense boosts him up. Because I've heard from my sources saying that some guys in the locker room did not want Penix to start. They thought Cousins should be still starting on there. So it's either teeter-totter on that one. But if this number continues to jump, because this is the last game, this is the 8:20 game, and we all know favorite and over gets bet on the Sunday night game. So if it moves to a magical 5, then I'm going to take a step back and say, okay, maybe the Falcons, all right, maybe this game ends at 3, like 23-20 type of game. And now I still got that good number at 5. I'll take a step back on that one because we could see that favorite and over Sunday nights. Always happens.
All right, you have already given me my early Christmas present. Now give the viewers an early Christmas present. You got a free play for them?
I'm going on Christmas. I'm going to put some, I'm going into my stockings and giving it out to everyone else. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers team total over 20.5 on Christmas Day. I already said it. They could have blown this number out there if Russell Wilson didn't have not one, but 2 brain farts against Baltimore Ravens, where he fumbled at the goal line in his last brain fart. They could have easily had 31 points last week instead of 17. Now they're at home. Last 8 home games, 6 of them have gone over the total. I think this game goes over, and I think the Pittsburgh Steelers puts up at least 24 to 26 points.
Yeah, getting Pickens back is huge too. We've seen over the last 2 weeks just how awesome that guy is and how much that team needs him. So like that call there. All right, I'm going to go with the Browns. I'm sorry, but I just don't think that the Dolphins should be, nearly a touchdown favorite against pretty much anyone in the NFL right now. I'm not buying this team at all. They won that game last week against San Francisco. The 49ers had been eliminated from the playoffs right before that game started. So their motivation was in the negatives. They played like it. San Francisco is also not a very good team right now, losing 5 of their last 6 games. For me, I'm going to couch this one. I'm going to say if Jameis Winston starts, take the Browns. And believe me, that's like the first time those words have ever come out of my mouth. Only bet this team if Jameis Winston, all-time loser, starts at quarterback, but he's better than DTR. He will sling it around a little bit. I feel like the Browns offense will respond to him a little bit better. The Browns get to play spoiler. It's going to be cold. It's on the road. We're going against the public. There's just a lot of reasons to like those points with the Browns. So, all right.
Really quick. Since my play was a Wednesday and people might not watch this until maybe after, I'll get another bonus one. Tampa Bay Buccaneers first half against Carolina. If it goes past 5.5, don't go on that one. Try to get to 5. There is 1 4.5 that's out there, but if it goes to 5.5, pass on it. I think Tampa Bay. Well, we saw fantastic game Tampa Bay played on Sunday night, going toe to toe with the Cowboys. I still think Baker Mayfield's going to sling it all over the place against Carolina. I'll take the first half at home.
Just finishing up my NFL power rankings, Raphael. Came across this stat to back up that play. Tampa Bay is 10-4 against the spread the last 2 years, coming off a loss. They've been a great bounce back team under Baker Mayfield. All right, folks, that's it. Like I said, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, happy all that stuff. Be sure to check back next week for What Are the Odds. In the meantime, Carpe Diem and good luck.